Policies issued by American General Life Insurance Company, Houston, Texas. Not available in all states. For details, visit AIGdirect.com.
So I knew it was important to have life insurance to protect our family, but I was putting it off. But then yesterday, a girlfriend of mine asked me, point blank, what would happen if you lost your husband? How would you pay the bills? The mortgage, the car payments, food. And that's when it really hit me, and I realized I needed to get us life insurance right now. So I called AIG Direct, and in less than 5 minutes, I had a quote. I was shocked at how affordable it is. Just $18 a month for $250,000 of term life coverage. I feel so much better knowing the kids and I are protected. And my husband was so happy I got the quote.
Save up to 70% when you get term life insurance through AIG Direct. Call now for a free, no-obligation quote. It only takes 5 minutes, and you could save up to 70%. 1-800-530-4856. That's 1-800-530-4856. Call 1-800-530-4856.
Fink's Car Care, with locations in Chesapeake and Portsmouth, is your dedicated Tire Stars dealer. At Fink's, their experienced staff specializes in brakes, steering, suspension, tune-ups, oil changes, and much more. They also handle rebuilt engines and transmissions, and they're your destination for tires, rims, and towing as well. Fink's is located at 2236 South Military Highway at 2711 Victory Boulevard. For more information, log on to finkscarcare.com or call 545-3573.
Chesapeake, Virginia, 1650 AM WHKT presents Sports Scene. Sports Scene features local, regional, and nationally acclaimed guests and excellent interviews. Follow Sports Scene on Twitter at Greg Bick and at GJBTV.com. Now here is Greg Bickaveris.
And thank you very much, Ken Johnson. Glad you're with us for Sports Scene right here on News Talk 1650 AM on the radio. Tell your friends also on TuneIn.com. Type in WHKT 1650. Find me at Twitter at Greg Bick, at Sports Highlight, at GJBTV. Sports Scene is an interview show just like Sports Highlights on NNPSTV.com. Thank you to our military and, of course, our great guest lineup as well today. Is Pete Mishu, Ernie Graham, and Nick Green. So really good guests. Of course, March Madness going on in full swing. I was at the NIT last night, yes, up until 9:30 at the Georgetown, West Virginia game. Really exciting, too, because they played at McDonough Arena on campus where Georgetown used to play basketball from 1951 to 81. Pre-Patrick Ewing, John Thompson Sr. was there. Really great atmosphere, and Georgetown beat West Virginia to move on. Of course, our guest lineup presented by Newcastle Coins and Collectibles. Phone line sponsors presented by Spaghetti Eddie's. I want to thank the sponsors this month: Newcastle Coins and Collectibles, Spaghetti Eddie's, Old Town Tavern, and Fink's Car Care. Of course, in the mid-40s on this March 19th, a couple days after St. Patrick's Day, and of course right before spring. Hopefully spring will stay here and will move forward as time goes on. Very, very nice weather as well. Stay tuned for our next guest. This is Sports Scene right here on News Talk 1650. For more, log on to GJBTV.com. I'll be back after these messages.
Excellent Italian food is found at Spaghetti Eddie's, a neighborhood restaurant with a great family atmosphere and delicious Italian cuisine. Define Spaghetti Eddie's. New York-style pizza, pasta, subs, calzones, soups, salads will bring you back again and again. Log on to SpaghettiEddiesPizzaCafe.com and visit them at Greenbrier and Western Branch. Quality Italian food is at Spaghetti Eddie's.
The place the locals and tourists go for U.S. rare coins and currency is Newcastle Coins and Collectibles in Chesapeake. They specialize in U.S. silver and gold coins, provide free verbal offers, and are always buying U.S. rare coins. Visit them at 681 North Battlefield Boulevard in Chesapeake, across from Chesapeake General, Tuesday through Saturday, and online at NewcastleCollectibles.com. Call 609-3633. That's 609-3633. For Newcastle Coins and Collectibles.
And And thank you very much, Ken Johnson. Glad you're with us right here on Sports Scene on News Talk 1650, your home for CBS News. Glenn Beck, Laura Ingram right here, your voice of the South, right here in Hampton Roads, your 10,000-watt superpower station right here all the way up until College Park, Maryland. You can hear it. That's the power of radio. Just like you scan your TV for great programming, flick it over to 1650 AM. You'll hear CBS News and great talk radio in Hampton Roads. Of course, former colleague of mine and also Ken Johnson's at another News Talk station, the longtime voice of the Tides Admirals, former voice of Old Dominion, Pete Michaud. Pete, welcome, my friend.
Hi, Greg. How are you?
Good. Always a pleasure on this Wednesday. Of course, you guys are busy. Let's start it off tonight. You take on Charlotte, and your record right now, 33-21, 1-7, getting into the final stretch of the season. So you guys are really in your March Madness as well.
It really is an exciting time of year. It's very exciting in the East Division and the Eastern Conference of the American Hockey League, because right now the Admirals hold down the 8th and final playoff berth. They're only a couple of points from being out of the playoffs, but they're also just a couple of points from being as high as 3rd in the conference. So that just shows you've got a lot of teams jumbled up here, in just one good stretch of 2 or 3 games or one bad stretch of 2 or 3 games can make a world of difference.
And, of course, Pete, too, you talk about 1650. Welcome, of course, now into your 3rd month on this station, and it really has enhanced the Southside audience as well.
Well, yeah, it has made a world of difference for us getting the games over on 1650, having done that right after the first of the year. Of course, our flagship station is 1490, which is over on the peninsula. Gives us a nice signal there, and in some portions of the south side. But it seems like everybody that has had any issues with picking up 1490 has gotten a wonderful signal on 1650, and we've got a great reception about it.
I'll say this, too, and I said it a few weeks ago on Sports Scene. I was driving to Maryland a few weeks ago on a weekend. You could hear 1650, you know, AM radio stretches all the way to College Park, Maryland during the daytime. So when you have those Sunday afternoon games, they really can be heard. That's the power of AM radio.
Well, absolutely, and I know that you're probably a lot like me, you know, having kind of grown up on AM radio. I know a lot of young people these days, you know, basically you're dialed in only to FM, but, you know, I kind of grew up on AM, and I know a lot of other people did, and certainly for sports, you know, listening to stations, you know, all over the country, really at night especially, that travel so well. You know, AM certainly has a special place at our heart.
This is Sports Scene right here on News Talk 1650, about 12:13. Greg Bicoveris talking to Pete Michaud, the voice of the Tides and the Admirals. Of course, Binghamton coming up on the 21st and the 22nd. So let's talk about this team. Of course, a couple of years ago, the Admirals had that great streak where they won so many games. They won the Calder Cup. How's the 14 squad look shaping up in the final month or so of the season?
Well, you know, obviously it looks good. You know, a lot of talent, especially defensively. You know, it's so hard to tell. I mean, there's so much talent. You know, you never know. One trade, one injury, one call-up, one send-down can make a world of difference.
It helps when you have guys like Steve Whitney and Chris Wagner in the squad that really, really help the younger players, too.
Well, yeah, this is a club that has a very unique balance in that we have 4 or 5 rookies. You mentioned Steve Whitney. Chris Wagner is a second-year guy. Antoine Lagunier is a guy that won a college championship at Yale a year ago. Max Freeberg is a young kid over from Sweden who has had a surprisingly good year. Then you mix them in with some veteran guys, especially on the defensive side. Our captain, Garnet Exelby, has over 400 games in the NHL. Steve Eminger, a former member of the Capitals with almost 500 games in his National Hockey League career. Nolan Yonkman is a seasoned veteran who has played over 700 games as a professional. So it's a very interesting mix of youth and experience that has certainly made this team what it is.
Pete, talk about the affiliation with the NHL Parent Club. Of course, the Admirals, for our audience, of course, we have more of a news audience here as well during the day. Talk about the affiliation, how they help support the Admirals compared to some of the other teams you guys have been affiliated with.
Yeah, this is our second year as an affiliate of the Anaheim Ducks. A lot of people are surprised when they find that out, that we're affiliated with the club, you know, almost 2,500 miles away, all the way on the other side of the country. But the American Hockey League has only one team all the way out west. That's in Abbotsford, British Columbia. There are some teams in the Midwest and down in Texas, but basically all those clubs that are out west, the Kings, Anaheim, San Jose, Phoenix, etc., you know, are affiliated with teams in the Midwest or the eastern part of the country. And while the geographic difference is unique, aside from that, it's been a wonderful working relationship. Anaheim has been very generous in providing us with talented young players, and certainly one of the big differences you see in teams that are successful at the AHL level is that their NHL partner is willing to sign some older veteran guys, some of the guys that I just talked about. Somebody like a Nolan Yonkman, for example. Nolan is now, I believe, 32 years old. He has had a brief call-up or two this year, but Nolan's not a guy that is probably going to be looked at as a full-time NHLer for the remainder of his career. And yet, a club like Anaheim goes out, they realize the value of a player like Yonkman, A, as a brief call-up when somebody gets hurt, and maybe more importantly, for the experience and the teaching that he can provide to the young players on the club. So when you've got an NHL affiliate that's willing to work with you and support you in that fashion, it certainly bodes well for your AHL team, and that's why the Apples right now, find themselves in the playoff hunt and in the division title hunt. They've been one of the better teams, especially one of the best defensive teams in the league all year.
This is Sports Scene talking to Pete Mishu. Greg Bicabaris, glad you're with us on this very nice Wednesday right here in Hampton Roads, March 19th, up until 1 o'clock. Of course, you're home for CBS News and the Admirals as well. And of course, with the Olympics just over about a month ago, and of course the NHL, the outdoor games, it really seems like it's picked up the sport of hockey, and these outdoor games really bring on broad excitement.
Yeah, especially for, really hardcore fans and casual fans alike. I personally think they're overdoing it now. When it was one game on New Year's Day, and then they, would add a heritage game up in Canada. Now suddenly you're looking at, 5 or 6 of these outdoor games a year. The American League is playing 2 or 3 of them as well. I think they're kind of oversaturating the market and kind of, losing some of the value of it. But I may be in the majority with that opinion. You look at the interest, both in attendance at games and in television viewership. Fans are certainly eating it up. You had the unique game out in Anaheim this year, actually in L.A., at Dodger Stadium between Anaheim and the L.A. Kings. That was certainly a novelty to play the first outdoor game in a warm weather market. Then, of course, you've had a wonderful success in places like Chicago. They had a game at Wrigley Field a couple of years ago. They just played a game at Soldier Field this year. Yankee Stadium hosted a couple of games this year. Fenway Park hosted a game a year or two back. And, of course, they had a couple of college outdoor games this year. Obviously, in the Big House, they had over 100,000 people this year for the game, hosted by the Red Wings. A couple of games have been played up in Canada. So, again, it certainly doesn't seem to be losing any kind of momentum.
Sports Scene right here on News Talk 1650. Greg Bicabaris talking to Pete Mishu. You're exactly right. And, of course, you talk about hockey, too. A lot of it's on NBC as far as the NHL. There was a time in the past that you had some games locally with the Admirals on TV. Is there any talk in the future, or is it pretty much now radio, streaming online? That's the future. Pete, talk about it.
Yeah, I really think that is the future. It would be nice to get some games on television. And I know in some of the other markets in the AHL where teams are incredibly popular, places like, Hershey perhaps, or Rochester, New York, maybe more traditional hockey markets, they do get a few games on local television. But frankly, when you compare the vast expense of putting a game on television to simply watching a game online, and fans now have that ability. They can watch every single game the Apples play online on a pay-per-view basis. I think it's $6 a game. Mm-hmm. But if you were to buy a package for a season-long rate, it prorates to a lot less than that. But if you just want to buy one game, I think it's $6, and you get the in-house video feed plus the radio broadcast. So, fans that really, really want to watch a game can do it that way and still get pretty good production, pretty good quality. And, it certainly outweighs the vast expense that most teams would have to go through to put games on local television.
And 25 years for the Admirals, Pete, that really is a lot of history there from the Blake Cullen days and John Brophy. Really, the Admirals have really been a hallmark franchise that sustained. A lot of minor league teams have come and gone. The Tides and the Admirals still are the hallmark of Hampton Roads.
Yeah, it really is interesting. You look back to the history of hockey in this market, Greg, and certainly you go back to the 1970s with the old Virginia Wings in the AHL, then through the late 70s and into the early 80s with teams like the Tidewater Sharks and the Hampton Gulls. And none of those teams were able to stick around any more than 2 or 3 years. They would have a brief moment of popularity, but that would quickly fade, and then for a number of reasons, largely financial, they would all fade away. But Blake Cullen saw something in this market back in 1989. He thought he could make it work. It was an instant success, and after 11 years in the East Coast Hockey League, the franchise and the city decided to take a bit of a gamble going up to the American League. Losing some of those great rivalries that you had with Richmond and Greensboro and Roanoke, also certainly, going up a notch in terms of expenses, whether it be in terms of, affiliation expenses or travel expenses. And yet here we are now in our 14th year in the American Hockey League. So, yeah, it has been an amazing run, 25 years now, and, hopefully we've got another 25 to go.
Final few moments with Pete Michaud right here on News Talk 1650, about 12:21 on this Wednesday, March 19th. Greg Bicoveris, glad you're with us. Hope you're enjoying the week so far. And you talk about, I was at the Scope this past weekend for the MEAC doing some TV work there, and really that place, even though it's several decades old, it's really showing its versatility, kind of like fine wine with age. It's really holding up pretty well. I mean, that place is really versatile, whether it's basketball occasionally, hockey full-time, the circus. That place still holds up. And your opinions about the Scope today compared to years past?
Well, I certainly have to give a tip of the cap to the city of Norfolk for the improvements that they have made in the building, especially in the last 7 or 8 years. All the seats are new. The massive new video scoreboard over center ice and over center court has been outstanding. They've got the new video information boards hanging up from the side walls, basically beyond each end of the ice. Just some other little things to help kind of clean up and spruce up the building. They've done a really nice job with it. You mentioned the MEAC tournament. In fact, we were leaving for an Admirals road trip in the middle of last week, and so the guys were all coming in, and we were actually standing off in the corner watching the end of the Hampton game that night. Mm-hmm. And I was really impressed with just the way the building looked, and certainly the little things that the conference had done to kind of spruce things up for the basketball tournament. It was a wonderful environment for basketball, and obviously is a wonderful environment for hockey.
And the Hampton women, of course, making the NCAA tournament, too, one of the local schools in it. Well, let's switch gears for just a couple minutes about the Tide. Still a little bit away, but it's right around the corner. Spring training is in full bloom, Pete.
Yeah, I was kind of afraid you were going to ask me what kind of team the Tides have. Everybody's asking me that question, and the only answer I can give them is I have no clue.
Right.
So many new players will be coming in this year. I'm thinking right now we might be looking at 4 or 5 guys from last year, and that is going to be it. A lot of the older veteran guys are gone this season. Danny Valencia, Yamaiko Navarro, players like that, all gone to other organizations. So, it's going to be a lot of new names this year. Certainly the one young, promising player we'll probably have back. I don't think he's going to make the Orioles, although there's still a chance. It would be second baseman Jonathan Scope. He is being looked at as probably the second baseman of the future for the Orioles, although according to most reports, he still needs some seasoning in the minor leagues. Although with Manny Machado's injury in Baltimore, there's a chance Ryan Flaherty could open up the year at third base, and Scope could make the team at second. But otherwise, we would see him here. But, a lot of new names, a lot of new faces this year, although the familiar names and faces, we're happy to say, will be the entire coaching staff, some of the most personable, friendliest people you'd ever want to meet, and also very, very good baseball people, starting with manager Ron Johnson, hitting coach Denny Walling, a longtime major leaguer, pitching coach Mike Griffin, a former member of the Yankees, Jose Hernandez, who's a former Major League All-Star with the Cubs. He's back as the third base coach. So all of the field staff will remain the same this year, but the playing staff will be very, very different.
Pete, I'm going to put you on the spot. Final question about the Admirals. They did win the Calder Cup a couple of years ago. Big hallmark moment for the city of Norfolk and the entire Hampton Roads region. Can they do it again in 14?
Well, I think they can. They don't have that dominating team that they had 2 years ago, and that's no criticism of them. That is the best minor league hockey team I have ever seen in 25 years, and probably won't see the likes of it again. This year's Admiral team is good enough defensively to win a championship, especially in net. They've got a young guy by the name of John Gibson. If you've not been out to watch an Admiral game, if you know anything about hockey, or if you don't know anything, would like to know, he's the guy to watch. This kid has bona fide NHL superstar written all over him. And a lot of people in this area are going to be happy to say, I remember him when he was a member of the Admirals, when he becomes that NHL star, because I think that is definitely going to happen. John Gibson was the second-round draft pick. He is regarded as the top goaltending prospect in hockey. He won a gold medal with the U.S. junior team a couple of years ago. I would certainly not bet against him being the Olympic team netminder whenever the NHLers go back to the NHL, whether the Olympic Games, whether it's in 4 years or 8 years, whenever that might be. So this is a team that is good enough defensively to win a championship. Their struggles have been on the offensive side. They've got some very good players like Emerson Edom and Devontae Smith-Pelly, but they've been inconsistent offensively. The Admirals only rank about 20th in the league at offense. They've got to figure out how to score a few more goals, couple that with this tremendous defense, then they've got a chance to make a run to a championship.
Well, Pete, good luck tonight against Charlotte. All the best. Thank you for joining me on Sports Scene. Always enjoy talking to you on the radio, and all the best in here in the final months before the Tide season starts.
Greg, pleasure as always. Thanks.
Thank you, Pete. All right, Pete Mishu right there, a longtime voice of the Admirals and Tides. We'll take a quick break on Sports Scene. This is News Talk 1650. Greg Bicaveras here with Devontae and Ken Johnson. Stay tuned. We'll be back after these messages.
Old Town Tavern, in the heart of Phoebus, is your place for a great lunch and dinner. A local place in every sense of the word, specializing in fresh seafood, burgers in a basket, crab cakes, salads, appetizers, and much, much more. Open 7 days a week, Old Town Tavern has live music, pool tables, darts, HD TVs, in a spacious and pleasant atmosphere. They have daily lunch specials, live music, and entertainment. Find Old Town Tavern on Facebook and visit them at 31 East Mellon Street in the Phoebus section of Hampton, with plenty of great parking in the back. Call 251-2636. That's 251-2636. Serving seafood, sandwiches, salads, wings. You can't beat Old Town Tavern. Bringing good food and great people together in the Old Town of Phoebus. Old Town Tavern in Phoebus, the locals' choice.
Fink's Car Care is your place for all of your automotive needs. They handle state inspections, brakes, tune-ups, oil changes, transmission service, radiator repair. They have a wide variety of tires, and when it comes to your car, they do it all. Visit their 2 locations at 2711 Victory Boulevard in Portsmouth and 2236 South Military Highway in Chesapeake. For more, log on to finkscarcare.com and call 545-3573.
Excellent Italian food is found at Spaghetti Eddie's, a neighborhood restaurant with a great family atmosphere and delicious Italian cuisine. Define Spaghetti Eddie's. New York-style pizza, pasta, subs, calzones, soup, salads will bring you back again and again. Log on to SpaghettiEddiesPizzaCafe.com and visit them at Greenbrier and Western Branch. Quality Italian food is at Spaghetti Eddie's.
It's now time for Greg's Highlights on Sports Scene, presented by DJBTV.com Marketplace Sponsors Page.
All right, thank you, Ken Johnson. Also, thank you, Pete Mishu, for joining me in the first segment right here. This is Sports Scene on News Talk 1650. This one presented by Peninsula Custom Framing and Lisa Steele. She's over at 2312 West Mercury Boulevard in Hampton. Give her a call at 262-0055 for all your framing needs. Don't forget GJBTV.com for the marketplace sponsors. Also, archive shows. Click the YouTube link. Shop on the marketplace sponsors on GJBTV.com. They support this show and the station as well. Save the date each Wednesday from 12 to 1 for Sports Scene. Save the date for the Newport News Greek Festival, May 29th to June 1st. For more, log on to NewportNewsGreekFestival.org. Don't forget the Dr. Mary V. Bicaveras Memorial Tennis Tournament at the Hampton Tennis Center, April 16th at 5 o'clock as well. For more, go to GJBTV.com, save the date section. Also, big March Madness going on, the NIT going on, and also the NCAA Division III National Championship March 22nd at 5:30 p.m. as well. So a lot going on. Stay tuned as well for our next guest. We're going to be talking March Madness as well in our business spotlight coming up a little bit later. What teased me off? A lot of goodies right here on Sports Scene every week from 12 to 1. Again, for archive shows, go to GJBTV.com. click the YouTube link as well as find me at Twitter at Greg Bick. Ken Johnson, take it away before CBS News.
All righty, more sports scene coming up, so stay tuned. A lot of good stuff coming up as well. We've got a couple of things going on in Newport News. We've got a crash, Warwick Boulevard south of Bland Boulevard, all that traffic backed up on 64 West up around the Lee Hall area because of the crash earlier past the Bland Boulevard overpass. That is pretty much cleared out, pretty much clear sailing on 64 westbound now. No backups or delays anywhere else. We do have a Coleman Bridge opening scheduled for 3 o'clock this afternoon. That's on 17 between Gloucester and York. Changeable weather coming our way. Cloudy afternoon showers today, 57 for the high. Cloudy evening showers tonight, 47 for the low. Partly cloudy tomorrow with a high of 63. Sunshine. Remember that big glowing thing up in the sky? We'll see it again, theoretically, on Friday, a high of 62 degrees. Partly cloudy on Saturday, 69. More scattered showers on Sunday, 48. And then sunshine for Monday of next week, but cooler, a high of only 39 degrees. And right now, the long-range forecast is calling for cloudy skies, rain, and snow on Tuesday of next week. Spring is coming, so they tell me. I'll believe it when I see it. CBS News is next, followed by more of Sports Scene on K-Talk 1650. It's 12:31.
CBS News Update. I'm Steve Kathan. The government says Toyota will pay $1.2 billion to settle claims from safety issues.
Toyota confronted a public safety emergency as if it were simply a public relations problem.
Attorney General Eric Holder.
They concealed from federal regulators the extent of problems that some consumers with sticking gas pedals and unsecured or incompatible floor mats that could cause these unintended acceleration episodes.
As part of the deal, after a 4-year investigation, Toyota will be held to some new safety standards, and if they're violated, it could mean criminal charges. Auto analyst John McElroy says its settlement is just part of what all this has cost Toyota.
Other analysts have said, hey, now you got to figure in the cost of the lawyers, the litigation, the marketing incentives, the marketing programs. They think it probably cost Toyota $5 billion.
CBS News Update. I'm Steve Kathan.
Old Town Tavern in the heart of Phoebus is your place for a great lunch and dinner. A local place in every sense of the word, specializing in fresh seafood, burgers in a basket, crab cakes, salads, appetizers, and much, much more. Open 7 days a week, Old Town Tavern has live music, pool tables, darts, HD TVs, in a spacious and pleasant atmosphere. They have daily lunch specials, live music, and entertainment. Find Old Town Tavern on Facebook and visit them at 31 East Mellon Street in the Phoebus section of Hampton, with plenty of great parking in the back. Call 251-2636. That's 251-2636. Serving seafood, sandwiches, salads, wings. You can't beat Old Town Tavern. Bringing good food and great people together in the Old Town of Phoebus. Old Town Tavern in Phoebus, the locals' choice.
Fink's Car Care, with locations in Chesapeake and Portsmouth, is your dedicated Tire Stars dealer. At Fink's, their experienced staff specializes in brakes, steering, suspension, tune-ups, oil changes, and much more. They also handle rebuilt engines and transmissions, and they're your destination for tires, rims, and towing as well. Fink's is located at 2236 South Military Highway at 2711 Victory Boulevard. For more information, log on to finkscarcare.com or call 545-3573.
What is this I'm feeling? If you wanna leave, I'm with it. We've come too far.
And welcome back right here to Sports Scene on News Talk 1650 from the Virginia Beach area. But I got to tell you, could hear that all the way going up to College Park, Maryland a few weeks ago. Hope you enjoyed our first guest, Pete Mishu, as well. Folks, we talked to Lefty Drizel, who lives in Virginia Beach now, Coach Maryland as well, and of course Georgia State, Davidson, and James Madison. One of his top players he had from 77 to 81 is Ernie Graham. And folks, before we talk to Ernie, let's let the introduction speak for itself.
Ernie Graham will be remembered not only for his remarkable scoring ability, but also for his impact upon leading Maryland to victory.
I would like to be looked at as a person that has overcome a lot of difficulties in my life. I really appreciate the university giving me an opportunity to be a part of the history here. So it's not just about Ernie Graham, but it's about a legacy that will be passed down through my children and their children and their children, which makes me feel real proud.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the court Ernie Graham. In addition to his family, Ernie is joined this evening by the Mayor of Baltimore, Stephanie Rawlings Blake, Baltimore City Councilman Carl Stokes, State Senator Nathaniel McFadden, representing Baltimore City District 45, Commander of Baltimore City Police Eastern District, Major Melvin Russell, Member of the Board of Regents, Barry Gossett, Member of the Board of Regents and former State Senator Frank Kelly, and Ernie's former coach from Baltimore City Recreation Department, William Wells.
Ernie Graham, my friend, welcome. Not a bad introduction, huh?
Yeah, how are you? Thank you.
Good, always a pleasure, my friend. March Madness going on. I got to tell you, as a kid growing up, watching yourself and King and Buck Williams and, of course, Lefty Driesell, who's a legend from our area as well, is really, you brought a lot of great delights to kids. And like you said, it goes to your kids, your grandkids. Maryland basketball spans a lot of generations.
Absolutely. And I've been fortunate enough to have my son to wear the number 25 this year, which has been probably the epitome of joy and just the greatest feeling in the world to be able to watch my child, who as a youngster wanted to do that, be able to.
Absolutely, because your number's hanging from the rafters there, like we just heard. And, of course, you played most of your basketball at Coalfield House. Talk about how special that was. I was at Georgetown last night, Ernie, at McDonough Arena. Old school basketball, 2,000 people there, the way it should be for the West Virginia, the NIT game. And Coalfield House, even though it was a lot bigger, seating 14,500, it was a special place.
Absolutely. Wasn't a bad seat in the house. And you really felt the part of the crowd, and you felt like you were able to be affected by the energy from in the stands, because everybody was so involved in the game. It was just the greatest feeling.
Yeah, of course, you got that big scoring mark, 44 against NC State. And, of course, back then State had, Hawkeye Whitney, some great players. But every time you guys played a game, whether it was Clemson or Duke with Jaminski and Banks, or North Carolina, it was always an event. Every time you and Lefty were in the house, it was, and your great teammates, Greg Manning and so forth, it was always an event.
Oh, yeah. Like I said earlier, the energy level was incredible. The ACC was each and every game at the same level. Mm-hmm. It was almost like a championship game every time you stepped on the floor.
Right.
The talent was limitless, and every team had several great players, which I'm sure was entertaining for the fans.
And one thing, too, about you, Ernie, I've seen you there over the years in a lot of games, and you've always stayed there true to your school, very loyal. And that's something a lot of kids look at, seeing your loyalty. Of course, your son, Jonathan, transferred. Of course, he's loyal to Maryland. You are. You're still going to the games. And, of course, that red, white, black, and gold, the school colors, are what you're all about.
Well, I'm a Baltimore kid, so
yeah,
I grew up with Maryland being the place that I wanted to go when I grew up. Mm-hmm. What we're hoping for is that the future begins to produce young people from the area, because we have a lot of talent in the area, and that they, too, will want to go to University of Maryland and bring it back to the level that it once was.
Talking to Ernie Graham right here. This is Sports Scene on News Talk 1650, right here every Wednesday, 12 to 1. Greg Bickaveris, glad you're with us. Right here talking to one of the all-time Maryland legends who play with Albert King, Greg Manning, and so many great players like Buck Williams as well. And, of course, of course, coached by Lefty Driesell right here from the Virginia Beach area. Let's talk about this year's Maryland team. They had a winning record, got a big win against Virginia the last game at home at the Comcast Center, but it really was a letdown because they didn't make the NIT. What was your son saying? I'm sure they were really disappointed.
He was very, very disappointed. He was hoping that they got to play, in the NCAA. He took the loss very, very, very hard down in Greensboro. And then to get home and not be invited to the NIT, for him, he's a very emotional kid. He puts it all out there. So he's still sulking. But I tell you one thing, he called Dad yesterday, and I went down, and we were in Comcast working out. So he's already putting work in for next year.
That's great.
And, it's a great feeling for, me to be his dad. It just feels so great because he's such a good guy.
Yeah,
and, I'm not the only person that says that. So I guess I have a little bit of favoritism there, but, there are others that say that he's a special kid. So I'm very grateful to be his father. I'll tell you that.
Well, I'll say this too, Ernie. It's very rare too that your kid gets to wear your number and go to your school. That alone, I don't think that many players can say that about a father-son combo like that as well. You talk about Maryland with Allen, Wells, Faust, your son. They got a pretty good nucleus coming back, a pretty young team as well. But the big difference is they're going to the Big Ten. No more North Carolina, Duke, Wake Forest like it was when you were a kid.
Well, that's kind of disappointing to not have the tradition that, I always have known all of my life. I'm sure all of your life, is that the ACC and the rivalries and the competitive nature of the ACC. But, the business and politics and all these things are starting to, have an effect on the decisions that have to be made. I don't think it's a basketball decision. I think it's more of a football decision. But, the revenues, I was watching a show about the Big East a couple of days ago, and they were talking about the football revenue and how, that generally influences the decisions for the athletic program in general. So.
Yep, talking to Maryland basketball legend Ernie Graham, who played there from 77 to 81, and the top 15 all-time leading scorer at Maryland, of course, played for Lefty Driesell, teammates of Greg Manning, Albert King, Buck Williams, so many great Maryland players at Coalfield House. God, that was just a great, iconic place. I mean, anytime you went to Maryland and went to Coalfield House, it was always a lot of fun. And you talk about football and dynamics of financial stuff, and, of course, the Big Ten's trying to get that TV market in Baltimore and Washington as well. But let's talk about, I was at Georgetown yesterday. Let's go back to when you were at Maryland playing. Do you remember that Georgetown game? Didn't you guys play at the D.C. Armory that game?
I think we played them in the D.C. Armory once, and then we also played them in Philadelphia in the NCAA tournament.
Right.
And they knocked us off. They knocked us out of the tournament in Philadelphia. I remember that.
Right. And that D.C. Armory, Ernie, I mean, you remember growing up in Baltimore, you played basketball wherever you could. Wherever you found a hoop, you would play, no matter what the weather was like. That had to be a throwback because last night at McDonough kind of brought you back to, old school basketball. You get a pickup game, you play. It doesn't matter where you're playing, what the weather's like, what the atmosphere was. It was on national TV last night, but something to be said about those old gyms. They bring a lot of memories. Obviously, Duke still thinks a lot about it because they're still playing in the same place that you starred there for 4 years, too.
I had the privilege of going to the Duke-Maryland game.
Yeah.
And sitting right behind the bench. And to walk in that place, it's a special feeling that you get because there's a lot of memories and a lot of legacy and a lot of spirits that still linger in these buildings that you never forget. And for me to go back down into that small gym and to feel it was just amazing.
Yeah, because you played against, like you said, Jaminski and Spanarkel and Banks. I mean, Banks played the same time you were at Maryland. You guys used to really have some great battles. You and Hawkeye Whitney, of course, and Dudley Bradley at North Carolina, and, of course, Jeff Lamp at Virginia. I mean, there was, like you said, it was always special no matter who you played with. But the one thing is, you guys all got along.
Oh, yeah. We all, after the game was over, had utmost respect for each and every one of our opponents. I don't know if that's the same sentiment nowadays. I think the young people now have different reasons for playing basketball. But we played simply because we loved to play and loved to compete. You know, it wasn't that great big pot of gold at the end of the rainbow like they're doing now with these young guys, giving them millions and millions of dollars to play the game of basketball. So we played for the love. We played for the win. Nobody was overly concerned about playing pro basketball. I'm sure we all want to go to that level, but it wasn't the reason that we played. We played to win. And hopefully, you know, some of these coaches will be able to get back to that. I think Duke has that type of environment. There's some schools that play to win, and there are other schools that kids play individually, and sometimes it's difficult to watch.
Yeah, your buddy Derek Wittenberg, he's now an assistant with NC State. He grew up in Maryland, too. And I got to give a shout-out to Ernie. My sister lives in White Marsh, so she's a Baltimore girl, too, although she grew up here as well. So a big shout-out to White Marsh as well.
All right.
Very good. Well, let's talk about the NCAA tournament now going on. You know, you got 68 teams. You got several from the ACC. And, of course, the ACC is not the same because you got a lot of former Big East teams in there. But it's still nice to see the ACC represent, you know. And, of course, we'll see what Carolina, Duke, and Syracuse and those teams do.
Well, you know, the three teams you just named almost always turn into a different monster when the tournament starts.
Right.
And they're always challenging teams. They always seem to find a way to win. In my heart of hearts, I'm an ACC guy.
Right.
So right now, I'm rooting for the ACC to, you know, get to the final 8, the Elite 8, and then get to the Final 4. I'll be watching, and I'll be rooting for the. I guess it's the home team. ACC is just it's our home team.
Exactly. And back when you played, I mean, you stayed for 4 years. Adrian Branch, you see him a lot on ESPN. I thought you and Adrian, I told Lefty this, for 8 years, the most prolific scorer is 1-2 punch. He had you from 77 to 81, Adrian from 81 to 85, and you knew Adrian when Maryland was recruiting him. That was 8 great years of scoring, but the two of you guys stayed there for 4 years.
Yeah, as I stated earlier, because we loved the game. You know, playing there was more exciting, I'm sure, than playing in the NBA. I mean, the NBA paid money, but it wasn't as exciting to participate night in and night out at the level that college basketball is. You know, every game is so very important, you know, and you know, you have to leave it out there on the court, and you know, you build these relationships with your teammates, and they become family, and it's great to be a part of it. But, you know, as I stated earlier, money and these great big contracts in the NBA and all have lured young guys. Some work out, many don't. They leave school early, and they don't develop, you know, their skill level as well as their character to be able to handle all that. So, you know, it's a lot different now with the talent level. When they're good, they're gone.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of unfortunate, but, you know, it's just the way it is.
And you gave back to the game of life, too, because it's about the game of life. You gave back to a lot of charities and foundations. You're always involved with the kids in Baltimore, the inner city kids. What was your basketball playing career after you left Maryland?
Well, after I got drafted with the Sixers and was released, I went to Europe and South America for the probably next 13 and a half years. I had a great career plan. I had a lot of success. And then at the end, decided to come home and start a children's drug prevention program based on my own experiences and my own issues and problems that I had to work through. And it felt a lot better than scoring baskets, I tell you. Just looking at these young kids and hoping, seeing the hope in their eyes that someone, unfortunately, when I was young, nobody had gone down the road of addiction and come back and told us the ugly side, you know, the side that people end up at. So I was just blessed to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always about looking forward, Ernie. You've always looked forward. You've never looked back.
Well, I had to look back at some point to find out reasons why. See, I don't know if you know, but I have an after-school program called Get the Message. I also work with the Ripken Foundation very closely. I'm their speaker, their national speaker, and I teach life skills, and we talk about the skills that in the decision-making of these young kids with regards to drugs, alcohol, and cigarettes. And I've committed my life to that because of my own experience. I had a terrible bout with drug addiction. I've been clean now 19 years. So it's very important to me to look back so that I can give back what God has brought me from. So I've had to look back. It's been pretty painful at times, but it's been well worth it because I see many of the young kids that I've had the privilege of working with who are doing good things now, and that really makes me feel good.
Absolutely. Ernie, well, I want to thank you so much for joining today. We're going to get you back on maybe during the NBA time and talk some NBA stuff, too, because I know you do enjoy watching the NBA, correct?
Yes, I was actually an analyst for Sportsnet for several years.
Yeah.
And I want to apologize for the way that I sound, but I have a pretty bad cold.
You sound great.
And so I hope I don't sound too bad.
Ernie, you sound great.
Yeah, I would love to come back, and you invite me whenever you want.
I appreciate it, my friend. It was great seeing you a few weeks ago at the Virginia game. And it's funny, I saw you at the Virginia game when the last game they played at Cole, I think, back in 2001. To always see you at the Virginia games. But anyway, we'll be talking NBA next time we talk to you, and always a pleasure, Ernie.
Thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure. Ernie Graham right there, one of the all-time great legends. Stay tuned. We'll come back after a short break after these messages.
The place the locals and tourists go for U.S. rare coins and currency is Newcastle Coins and Collectibles in Chesapeake. They specialize in U.S. silver and gold coins, provide free verbal offers, and are always buying U.S. rare coins. Visit them at 681 North Battlefield Boulevard in Chesapeake, across from Chesapeake General, Tuesday through Saturday, and online at NewcastleCollectibles.com. Call 609-3633. That's 609-3633 for Newcastle Coins and Collectibles.
People in Chesapeake and Hampton Roads have come to expect the finest Italian food at Spaghetti Eddie's. In addition to great lunch and dinner served daily, this fine establishment caters to and can host your party. Call 484-7301 for their Taylor Road location and call 410-5500 for their restaurant in Greenbrier. For more, log on to SpaghettiEddiesPizzaCafe.com.
Fink's Car Care, with locations in Chesapeake and Portsmouth, is your dedicated Tire Stars dealer. At Fink's, their experienced staff specializes in brakes, steering, suspension, tune-ups, oil changes, and much more. They also handle rebuilt engines and transmissions, and they're your destination for tires, rims, and towing as well. Fink's is located at 2236 South Military Highway at 2711 Victory Boulevard. For more information, log on to finkscarcare.com or call 545-3573.
All right, welcome back here to the Sports Scene. Greg Bickaveras, glad you're with us. We just talked to one of the all-time great Maryland legends, Ernie Graham, talking ACC basketball, his days at Maryland, of course, the future of Maryland basketball. Also, Pete Mishu as well. This segment brought to you by the original Luigi's Italian Restaurant in Newport News at 15400 Wark Boulevard, open Tuesday through Sunday for great lunch and dinner. Give them a call at 887-0005. That's 887-0005. The original Luigi's Italian Restaurant, pizza, pasta, and so much more. And of course, also want to welcome Nick Green from Chick-fil-A on Battlefield Boulevard for our business spotlight. Nick, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Greg. How are you doing today?
Good, my friend. It's March Madness. What's going on at your Chick-fil-A? Tell us your address and location.
Well, right now we're at Chick-fil-A Battlefield Boulevard, which is 1516 Sam's Circle, right next to the Sam's Club over here. And right now we're very excited about our March Madness promotion that we're promoting right now, which we will not be actually doing anything until the Final Four teams are decided. I hope my UVA is going to be in those Final Four, but we'll see. But when you come in the day that the Final Four teams are decided, you can choose between the teams. you get a coupon for that, and if they win, you come back, you get a free entree if you're choosing after the final team is decided.
And, of course, you can find yourself on Facebook, too, and talk about your website.
Well, you can find us on cfarestaurant.com/Battlefield Boulevard. And like us on Facebook at Chick-fil-A at Battlefield Boulevard, Chesapeake, Virginia. And we just got an Instagram started up. So if you want to go and pop by there, too, it's at CFA Battlefield Boulevard.
Talking to Nick Green from Chick-fil-A, of course, very sports-minded. They sponsor a lot of college bowl games, too. And you talk about your menu. It's always evolving, right?
Yes, it is, actually. In fact, coming up in 1 week, we'll be launching our new char-grilled chicken sandwich, which is featuring a new recipe that has a very backyard grill taste. Sounds like it tastes like it comes right off your backyard grill. And we're very excited about that. So come on by and try that out.
Phone number is 547-4503. And you mentioned the new location. That extra parking really helps a lot, especially during the drive-thru, right, Nick? Nick, you there? Looks like we might have lost Nick right there, Ken. But anyway, great place right there at Chick-fil-A right there on Battlefield Boulevard. Nick, are you there? Looks like we lost Nick. Anyway, I want to thank Nick Green right there from Chick-fil-A. Also want to thank New Creations by April right there. She does haircuts, foil color, of course, ombre for everyday appointments, special occasions, hair extension. April does it all. Get a haircut at 436 Hair. Her phone number is 436 Hair. She's in a new location at 1200 North Battlefield Boulevard in the Battlefield Shops. Please call. Appointments only. In business since 1998. Find her on Facebook. New Creations by April. Ken, we got another segment coming up. What tees me off?
What tees you off? Presented by GJBTV.com.
And definitely when you're riding on 64, it seems like those signs that say tunnel blocked. Then you go a mile later, it says backed up for a quarter mile. Every time you go further, those signs say tunnel blocked. Hey, VDOT, we don't care. Just tell us what the reality is. All people really care about if there's an Amber Alert, but don't create hysteria on 95 and 64. I was leaving Georgetown last night at 9:30 just to be here on time, because if I left this morning, it would have been difficult because of traffic and construction as well. Storming the court, mostly in college basketball. No need to, folks. It's risky, dangerous, not good for any parties, and it shows immaturity. High school prep scheduling. Get back to the districts and community games. Kids and families are busy. Keep travel to a minimum. No kid should be going from the peninsula to the south side during the middle of the winter for any sport, except for football because it's once a week. Amazing when you run errands at night. Ken and Devontae, things multiply at home. You got to take the trash out, put stuff away, and you got to always organize. Gas prices, enough already. Oh my goodness, pushing $4 in some places. In Northern Virginia, it's over $3.57. How about keeping it $3? Tolls, one thing for sure, the locals have avoided them. They have not worked out. I feel sorry for the poor tourists that come to Virginia Beach this summer and get through the tolls and get a bill when they get home. Honey, what's this? Oh, welcome to Virginia Beach. What is the fascination with Flo, I've said this before, and Samuel Jackson? They should both be in a movie together. Ken Johnson. We've had some great guests today. Pete Mishu, Ernie Graham, and of course Nick Green. Excellent guests. This is March Madness. These $1 million bracket, $1 billion bracket challenges. If you can pick that, you definitely deserve to win because it's wide open. There's no dominant team. It could be Florida. It could be Louisville. It could be anybody winning the NCAA tournament. Some people are saying Michigan State. Who knows? But anyway, always fun. I want to thank our guests again, Pete Mishu, Ernie Graham, Nick Green, our great sponsors. For more, log on to GJBTV.com. Hit the YouTube link for the archive show. It'll be on tomorrow. And of course, for archive shows, go to Marketplace Sponsors as well. So I want to thank our great guests. We'll be back again next Wednesday from 12 to 1 for Sports Scene. I'm Greg Picaveras. Happy Wednesday, and we'll talk to you soon.
Another great show with Sports Scene every Wednesday, noon to 1, right here on K-Talk 1650.